Hello everyone, and thank you very much for tuning into the 13th episode of the Sack Race Weekly. I'm Jack Kitson and I'll be joined by Simon from Empty Seats. Thank you to everyone that's watched our videos and subscribed so far. Today's show, 3 manager markets: Sheffield Wednesday, Fleetwood, Port Vale. 3 EFL clubs all looking for a new manager. We're going to get stuck into that in a moment, but please do check out thesackrace.com. We've got a brilliant piece from Gab Sutton on a 12-point plan for Ipswich to rebuild. We've got an interview with Nathan Rooney, the Cole manager, plenty of quizzes, and also check out our last video, 10 managers we want to see back in the dugout this year. Right, Simon, let's kick it off with Sheffield Wednesday. It's been 2.5 weeks since Tony Pulis left. They're still looking for a new manager. They're third of the season. The next couple of games have been postponed due to a COVID outbreak. Wish everyone a quick recovery there. But looking at the market, Paul Cook, a name we always mention on this show, is the early favourite. Well, still the favourite now. He recently said, "It is very, very flattering to be linked. I'm an out-of-work manager and I'm desperate to get back into football. You miss the day-to-day of the dressing room, good or bad, the interaction with the players. Sheffield Wednesday is an absolutely massive club. It would be a fantastic club for anyone to manage. So while I'm being linked with it, is obviously very flattering." So we previously said we don't think he'll want the job himself because of the owner. He now very much wants it. Is he the logical choice for the club now?
He surely has to be, doesn't he? I mean, he's by far the most qualified candidate in my opinion. An exceptional championship manager, as we saw last season. Such good experience at the likes of Portsmouth and Wigan themselves. I think he's proved himself to be one of the top managers in the Football League. I think Sheffield Wednesday, to be honest, with the situation they're in at the moment, would be very lucky to have him. And if they appoint anyone else, it would be absolutely baffling if his name is in the ring to get this job. I think if he's applied for it, he has to get it. Simple as that.
The big talking point this week is, of course, Roy Keane, out at 40-1 previously. He's now just 4-1 to get the job. We've seen him linked with so many jobs over the years. He hasn't been around for so long now. Salford City early in the season, but that didn't come to fruition. Is this another false dawn, or would it be absolutely brilliant to see him back with the Owls this time?
I mean, it would be brilliant to see him back, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure this would be the right fit given the chairman and what he's done this season. And imagine Roy Keane in the dugout. Imagine a meeting between those two. It would be absolutely mental. I mean, I'd love to see Roy Keane back in management. We've seen what he brings to the studios. I want to see him back on the touchline doing his thing. But I'm not sure this is the right fit for either party, to be truthful.
Micah Richards as his assistant?
Imagine that. Imagine his laugh on the bench. That'd be stunning.
Neil Thompson, the caretaker. He missed the last game because he tested positive for COVID, but they've won 3 games without Pulis, so the decision seems justified. Could an internal appointment be likely?
I'd like to think he has a chance of getting the job, to be honest. You see the way he's turned them around so far this season. 3 wins out of 3 since Pulis left, 2 wins in the league, I think, under Thompson. So he's done incredibly well. And I think if anyone deserves a shot, it has to be him. I think the players are really responding to him quite well, better than any other manager they have had so far this season. So I'm not sure he's likely to get the job, to be honest, but I think given merit, I think, like you mentioned earlier, those 2 games being postponed due to the coronavirus situation at the club, that's really going to have an impact on his chances of getting the job, I think. I think if he'd have played those 2 games, they were against Coventry and Wycombe, very winnable games in the Championship. If he'd have got 2 more wins, I think he might have even been favourite to get the job on a permanent basis. But now those 2 games are off, it gives them a 2-week period, I think, without a game. I think we could see a new manager appointed. So it's unlucky for Thompson. I think he did deserve a chance at managing a few more games.
We've also got Chris Coleman still there at 6-1. Joey Barton, who was the favourite previously, he's out at 20-1 now. That seems quite unlikely. Danny Cowley in the mix. Anyone else that deserves a mention, or do you think this one's Paul Cook's?
I think it should be Paul Cook's, but I will give a mention to Nigel Pearson, of course. He played, I think it was 200 games or something for Sheffield Wednesday. He said his next job he wants to really get stuck in. He wants to be 100% in on his next job, which makes me think perhaps again this Sheffield Wednesday one isn't quite right for him, but a former player coming back to the club, I think some of the fans would welcome that and he would be able to get them away from danger. I'm not doubting his ability in doing that, but yeah, I think it's got to be Paul Cook if his name is in the hat for this job.
Section 2, Fleetwood Town. They're also on the hunt for a new manager following the departure of Joey Barton last week. It's been about a week and a half now since that decision that took me by surprise. What was your initial reaction to it?
Yep, very surprised by it as well. I think there was certainly something going on behind the scenes there. We saw the departure of Ched Evans, their leading striker, and then Joey Barton left not soon after. So I don't know if there was something in the dressing room, some disciplinary issues going on behind the scenes. Nothing's really come out about that. We know what Joey Barton's like as a fiery manager, to put it lightly, so he'd certainly stand up for himself in those situations. But on the field, I think, to be truthful, Fleetwood were underperforming a little bit this season. I think they're mid-table and they should be in the playoffs really with the squad they've got. Loads of talented players for me. So slightly underperforming this season, but he finished in the playoffs with them last season. I think they could have done it again this time around, but decisions have been made and Fleetwood now need to look to the future.
Many doubted Barton, of course, but he did prove his critics wrong. Now, with Steve Bruce under pressure at Newcastle, he's 14-1 for that job. A club he played for, of course. He's, as we mentioned before, he's 20-1 for Sheffield Wednesday and 25-1 to go down into League Two with Port Vale. Do you see Barton returning before the end of the season?
Tricky one. I think he'll take a month or two out of the game, to be honest. But yeah, I think he definitely could get a job before the end of the season. His CV's certainly enhanced from his time at Fleetwood. I mean, that playoff run, they were unlucky not to get promoted, just a bit out-battled by Wycombe in those playoff semi-finals with the coronavirus pandemic, having that massive break in between games. They were actually in really good form as the season got suspended. So they were a bit done over by that big break and then the playoff campaign. They could well be a championship club if things have been slightly different. I think Barton deserves great credit. I think Fleetwood now do have a good squad. I'd like to see him back. I think he deserves another chance at League One level for sure.
As for the names in the frame, we've got Tim Cahill, high profile name who's never managed, as the 5-4 favourite. He's had a bit of experience at the Everton Academy and the Guitar youth teams as well. Would this one be interesting for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you'd have told me like a decade ago that Joey Barton would be replaced as Fleetwood manager by Tim Cahill, I'd have told you you'd lose in the plot, because that's just like what's happening in my football manager game at the moment. But Cahill seems to have got a bit of experience with the Everton youth teams, isn't it? And he seems to have been training at Finch Farm with Ancelotti a bit in terms of managing the players. In recent weeks, I think he was spotted there as well. I think what he would bring to Everton is those connections that he has clearly in the game. Maybe a few Australian players coming in, a few Everton loanees as well. And they've had a few players from Everton in the past as well in recent years too, which have been quite successful. So I think that could be a good connection. I think he's got a little connection with the chairman at Fleetwood as well. So we'll see how that one develops. I think it'll be a very exciting appointment. I think Fleetwood, give them their credit. They always give young managers a chance to prove themselves, always give untested managers a chance, as we saw with Barton. I think Graham Alexander had very little experience as well when he went there. So Fleetwood have done very well in terms of giving young bosses chances at a pretty good level. Yeah,
there has been a trend in recent years in League One and League Two in particular to see young bosses given a chance in the dugout. Speaking of which, we've got Nathan Rooney, the Colne boss, top of the table, but the season's been suspended for now. We interviewed him last week. He's a bright, young, dynamic coach. He has a history at Fleetwood. He's previously coached there. So keep an eye on that one at 25-1. Elsewhere, we've got Simon Wells, the caretaker. James Beattie has emerged as one of the favourites. Simon, is there anyone else you see getting this job?
It's a tricky one, this Fleetwood market could go anywhere. I'd like to touch on Simon Wells. I think he's done a great job with the Fleetwood youth team, and I think their style would really suit Fleetwood at the moment. We've seen a lot of internal appointments happen so far this season with the pandemic, with clubs trying to save a bit of money. I think maybe this job might come slightly too soon for him, but I think we will see him as a Football League manager soon. Perhaps in a couple of years he might get the Fleetwood job, but I think he's a really promising young talent at Fleetwood. I'd like to see him get a managerial role in the next couple of years. I think with them kind of looking to finish in the playoffs, they might go for someone a little bit more experienced. Having said that, we've just been talking about Tim Cahill as the favourite. Maybe, I don't know, throwing a name out there, it won't be very popular. Someone like Phil Parkinson perhaps could get this job. He didn't do well at Sunderland in League One, but he has got the experience at this level. And maybe it's a really controversial one. Maybe Phil Parkinson could get the Fleetwood job.
Chris Beech has also been mentioned at 10-1, the Carlisle boss, doing so well there this season, but he's come out and said that he's committed to Carlisle. I know we always hear that, managers go back on their word, but he seems an honest and loyal guy, so we take his word on this one. Port Vale are also looking for a new manager. They're in League Two. Their manager, John Askey, left the same day as Joey Barton last week. Simon, what was your initial reaction to this one?
Yeah, tough one this one for Askey and Vale. I think again they've probably been underperforming this season. I think they've been shipping quite a few goals, and yeah, I was disappointed because I've always seemed to like John Askey and what he's brought to the league. But I think Vale, I expected them to be doing a lot better this season, so a bit disappointed but not surprised.
Danny Pugh, the caretaker, is now the odds-on favourite for the job. Tom Pope, the Port Vale striker, has this to say on the caretaker. Danny Pugh is our interim manager, and if any of the fans had worked with him, I can guarantee they would want him to get the job. It's not just the level he's played at, it is his coaching and his knowledge. Now, I personally don't know too much about him, Simon, but do you think this could fit the mould of a young, dynamic coach?
Yeah, and as I've just touched on, the same exact thing, appointing from within seems to be the thing. And when your club legend, your leading striker, says that about you, I mean, that's a ringing endorsement for the Port Vale board to take on board, really, in their appointment process. I think if you look at what clubs have done in the Football League so far this season, this would make perfect sense for Port Vale. Obviously, their season was cut short last season on the edge of the playoffs, so they probably need to save a little bit of money, and this could be a very sensible way to do that. And I think fans, given that Pope's come out and said that, would be pretty happy with this appointment. I think it's a sensible decision.
Graham Coughlan's been linked. Of course, he didn't do too well at Mansfield. He did really well at Bristol Rovers prior to that, though. He's around the 4-1 mark. Adam Murray, Barnsley assistant at the moment, he's also there. But the interesting one that's really taken us by surprise last week was Emile Heskey, who's 12-1 at the moment. Now, since retiring, he's got a UEFA Masters, he's worked on his coaching badges, he's set up a footballers support group, he's an ambassador for Leicester City Women, and he's previously spent time coaching under Neil Lennon at Bolton. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's give Emile Heskey a chance in League Two. We've seen it with these ex-England footballers having a go at management. I mean, as I've just said, you know, there's managers in the running for this. You mentioned Coughlin with a lot more experience than Heskey, but they've got to start somewhere, and I'd hope Port Vale would be one of the clubs that could give him a chance. I mean, there's a load of managers in the running for this job, a lot of good options. Heskey might find himself down the list a bit when it comes to experience, when it comes to what he's done in the dugout, but you said there, he's done his pro licence. I think he's ready to step into football management, and if he wants the job, he should certainly be considered for it. I'm not sure they'll go for him, to be quite truthful, but I would like to see, you know, keep this football manager thing going. Let's have more ex-England internationals in the Football League.
If you want some out the blue, completely random 33-1 shots, Paolo Di Canio, who you know we love, Robbie Fowler, Ian Dowie as well, and Michael Flynn. Simon, thanks so much for another episode, mate.